All right, welcome everyone. We're going to be recording like Laura just said, and welcome to our webinar on Bookshare. And we will put in the chat the tiny URL, which will take you to the home base. And then there's also the QR code that will link you to the resources. So we'll put that there in the chat, and we welcome you all to this webinar to learn more about Bookshare. And we'll do just some quick introductions. My name is Leah Padilla, and I am a coordinator with the Open Access Project. And along with me today, we have Lori Balsano-Wright, who is another coordinator on the Open Access Project. And we have Jill McCann, who is our AT Content Lead Specialist with the Open Access Project. And also Emily Desjardins is here, and she is our UDL Content Lead Specialist. And then we are excited to have Laura Ronberg here from Benetech, and she is going to share with us the wonderful resource, Bookshare. So at Open Access, accessibility is the work that we do, and we are committed to the principles of universal design for learning. So a few things that we're doing today to make sure that our materials are accessible. We have those simple backgrounds and high contrast text. We also have the tiny URL and the QR code so you can access. We have alternative text for images. And then also we invite you please to put questions in the chat or the Q&A. And also please introduce yourself through chat. Let us know who's here today and where you're from. And thank you so much for being here. And then just a little bit about open access. So open access is a statewide special education resource lead, and we are based on the foundational belief that with access to quality curriculum and instruction, all students can engage, actively participate, and learn within inclusive settings. So we often say kind of our hashtag is learning and participation for all. So it is where universal design for learning, assistive technology, and augmentative alternative communication collide. And on that home base, you'll see a link to our website, and we encourage you to check out our universal resources and learn more about open access. You can click on that one pager and it talks about the different kinds of supports that we provide. But I want to pass it over to Laura and let her share more about Bookshare.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining. My name is Laura, and I will be talking about Bookshare, which is a great example, I think, of a resource for in your UDL framework, assistive technology, accessibility, that really can help support your students. Because at least 5% of your students, if not more, experience a barrier to reading traditional printed books. Just because now, there is more digital curriculums and digital learning, that doesn't mean that it is accessible to these students who require accessible formats. And for them to really fully participate in their classroom, they need access to their materials at the same time as their peers. So this is where something like Bookshare comes in. Bookshare is an online library of millions of ebooks, including textbooks, in a variety of alternative formats. Each one of those million titles can be accessed as an audio file, audio with digital highlighted text, so that as they're seeing the words on the screen highlighted, they're hearing it at the same time. They can be downloaded in digital braille or available simply in large print. So every million plus titles available in the ways that work for each unique learner. Best of all, Bookshare is free for schools and students, for qualified students, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But Bookshare is always free for schools and districts, and that's pre-K, K-12, post-secondary. The Bookshare collection is vast and very, every genre that you can imagine. It's textbooks, again, K-12 and post-secondary textbooks, books for assigned and pleasure reading, all the literature and fictional titles that students read as they go through school, New York Times bestsellers, all the major literary award winners, career and technical training materials, study guides for all the standardized tests that students may take, the PSATs, SATs, LSATs, MCATs, their GED tests. So the study guides for those, we have the entire dummy series. It's a really vast collection. Bookshare books are voiced. The audio does come from whichever device the student is using to read their book, and we'll get into that in a bit. But we do also now have a new and growing collection of some human narrated titles, and those are titles for all ages and genre. We're really excited about that. One of the things that makes Bookshare different from some of the other digital book libraries that are out there are the books are always available 24/7. Access doesn't cut off when kids leave their school building. They're always available. There's no need to check out a book or return a book or wait until someone else is finished with the title. There's no limits on how many people can be reading the same book at the same time. There's no need to return the book or wait for it to become available. So I mentioned that Bookshare does rely on some qualifications. There is an eligibility component. Bookshare operates under a provision in the copyright law that says if a person of any age who has difficulty accessing traditional text, which is, a traditional hard copy book or static text on a screen, that if they have difficulty reading that text due to a learning or reading difference, such as dyslexia, a visual impairment, or a physical condition, they are entitled to accessible version of published works. So an organization, Betatech is the parent company of Bookshare. We are legally allowed to get those book files and retrofit it in a way that makes it in accessible formats for people who do have difficulty accessing traditional printed text. So for people who can't look at text, the words on the page and decode it or comprehend it, or can't see it due to low vision or blindness, or if they have a physical condition such as cerebral palsy where they can't pick up a book, hold it in their hands and turn the pages. These are the students who are entitled to access books in accessible formats through a library such as Bookshare. Again, we do not operate under special education law, so IEP or 504s are not required. It is simply that the educator who has been working with their student and knows they have something going on, whether that be a learning disability or the visual impairment or physical disability, the educator gives the student access to Bookshare. There's no documentation that we require you to send in. It's a very simple process of checking a box when you add your student to your school or district's Bookshare account member roster. So again, there's no diagnosis that's required or level of reading. It's just you, the educators, make that determination if your student qualifies for Bookshare. There are many ways to read Bookshare books on the devices students have access to already at school and at home. Computers and Chromebooks, iOS and Android mobile devices. Bookshare has our own assistive technology reader tool called the Bookshare Reader for both computers and Chromebooks and mobile devices. There are other third-party apps out there that also integrate with Bookshare. The books can be read on the digital Braille displays, refreshable Braille displays, Braille note takers, other specialized assistive technology devices that a student might be using at school. And I will, as we go through the presentation, we have some links on our slide that take you to pages with more information about the different tools. And I will be demonstrating our Bookshare Reader for computers. So Bookshare is a great UDL resource. We offer, many ways of accessing the materials in the way that works for each individual student, whether that be the format they require or the choice of devices that they have to read the books. They can really customize the way the material is displayed in the way that works for them. That gives them the autonomy to decide how do they want to read. Do they want to listen to their book? Do they want the digital text with the synchronized audio with it? Some students maybe with low vision can read in Braille and also just sometimes need a larger print. So there's a lot of options for them to select what works best for them. Also, Bookshare integrates with other UDL tools such as Read and Write. I know that is a popular tool in a lot of districts. And it's easy to use that Read and Write toolbar with the book opened in the Bookshare reader. So that is just also another, kind of benefit of how it can fit in with the tools that you're already using. Bookshare is a great resource that saves teachers time and energy. It's that immediate access to the accessible education materials that many of your students might need. There's no need to request it from your district or from the state clearinghouse. It's just anywhere you have access to the internet, you can easily assign the books to your students, and anywhere that they have internet access or, cell service, they can log in and read. So it's, no waiting to get the books in the format that they need. Students are given their own username and password, so they log in independently, whether that be at school or at home, and they can read the books that their teachers have assigned to them. So it's a really, really convenient feature for both educators and students.
Laura,
Bookshare.
one
Mhm.
one question that there was in the Q&A, are there textbooks for high school students that are accessible on Bookshare?
Yes, there's textbooks for all grade levels, including, all through K-12 and post-secondary as well. So for college and university, grad school, books medical students use, law students. So yeah, full range of ages. Bookshare, we offer two types of accounts. Organizational accounts are what is created at a school or district level. And there are already thousands of accounts in California. So chances are your district has an account. Someone at one point created the account. Maybe that person left and then no one knows that it exists. You'll have my email at the end of the presentation. You can certainly reach out to me if you're not sure if your school or district has an account. But some districts like to have one district account for use throughout the district. Others do it by school building, whatever works best. On those accounts, educators get added as sponsors, students get added as members, and the educators, you add your students who qualify. And educators then assign books to students. And we don't have time to go through that whole process today, but again, there's some links further on in the PowerPoint that can take you to pages on our website that explain that whole process. But students can only read the books that their teachers have assigned to them, and that's just simply checking a button on the website that you're assigning it to them. We also offer individual memberships. They're also free for students. They can be added on to the student's account once they're on their school or district account, or a parent can sign their child up, outside of school. But it's best, it's really great when they have that link to their school account. It's the best of both worlds. Teachers can assign the books the kids need for school, and then kids can also log in and then read whatever they want. And for these readers who have been struggling with reading, they hate reading, they don't understand that reading can be fun and a wonderful pastime. But when they're able to search for the books that they want to read and read books for fun, not just because they have to take a test, that can really encourage a lifelong love of learning and reading, which, as we know, is an important skill as we go through life. But for students, Bookshare will always be free. And again, that's students of any age. When they leave K-12 and go on, if they go on to college or they go on to a vocational or educational vocation ed training program, the Job Corps, they're in a trade school, Bookshare will still be free for them. And we've really worked on getting a lot of those post-secondary resources in the collection, as well as materials for, say, someone is going into a mechanic program or hospitality or become a certified nursing aide. Some of the career paths that are out there for people who maybe are not going to into a college. So we have all those resources as well. As long as they're a student, it will be free. When they're no longer a student, Bookshare does have a paid off. There is an ability to pay for it on a yearly basis. In California, the California State Library for Braille and Talking Books will also fund people's memberships. So kind of keep that in mind if you have any students who are using Bookshare when they are graduating, and if they're not going on to another educational program, they can become a member of the California Braille and Talking Book Library. They operate under the same qualification that Bookshare does, and they will pay for someone's Bookshare membership. So that's, it's great to keep in mind for your students who are transitioning.
Laura, we have another question in the Q&A. Do all teachers have access to see what books students have? And can all teachers assign the books to a student's account? Which I think you just addressed that second question.
Yes, so any teacher on an account can assign books to the students that are on that account, which is great because, the English teacher might have a need to assign a book. The history teacher might have a need to assign a book. So they can see that, and then they can click on the student's name and see what books have been assigned to them. And we really encourage, the accounts can have as many students and teachers on it as you wish. I hear in some districts there's like one staff person who is designated the book assigner, and there's no reason one person should have to do all that work when it's really any teacher. They don't need to know about setting up the account. That's already done. Just they can get added as a sponsor, very easily shown how to search the collection, assign the book, and get the student reading. So yeah, that's a great question. So you should see I'm on the Bookshare website. I am logged in as a student, and students are given their own username and password. They would come in, the teacher would say, I've assigned some books to you, read this book or that book, or, pick one of the books. Students log in, and so I will give you sort of the demonstration of how a student who's on a computer or Chromebook can easily read the book in what we call the Bookshare Reader for Web. There's also the mobile app. And I had hoped to be able to demonstrate it with the read and write toolbar, but I just have like the trial version, and I don't know if it expired, but it's no longer working. But we do have some information on our website about using it with that powerful toolbar. So to quickly read the book, I can just select the Read Now button. It opens the book in the browser. There is nothing to download the book. So there's no files to download. If you have used Bookshare maybe 10 years ago, you had to download a file and unzip it and import it into another system. It's just all in the cloud now. The book opens in a browser tab. There's a table of contents. They can select where they want to start. And then the settings icon, they have the option of setting it up to the look and feel that works for them. So I am on a PC and I'm on the Edge browser, and under voice, it will show me what's available. So the voices do depend on the device someone is using. Microsoft in the Edge browser makes these they call them natural voices that are a little more lifelike. If a student is using a Chromebook and in the Chrome browser, there's a Chrome, I think it's a Chrome female voice, a Chrome male voice. There's not all the options, but maybe at home they have a PC that has Edge. And I just mentioned Edge because they do have these newer line of voices that are a little better. But they would select from the voices available to them. They can change the audio speed. They can determine whether they want to voice the page numbers. Many images in our books do have the audible image description. So as the audio hits that image, it will say, image of a boy with his dog under a tree. Maybe a student finds that distracting. They can turn that off. They can change the font size. For a student with some visual impairment, maybe they just need a larger font and that works for them. Other people just prefer a larger font. And they can select the font style. There's a variety of font styles, including the Open Dyslexic font, which some people with dyslexia like, others don't. Again, all very personal preference of what they like. They can change the character spacing to have a wider spacing. More white space helps people. It can show the pages side by side like a book or just one scrolling, change the margins, the line spacing. Again, I think sometimes having that more white space can really help the student follow along page numbers. And then the color and contrast, the white background with a black font, dark background with light font. Some of these people find them easier on the eyes than others. There's blue, a grayscale for people that color sometimes affects their eyes. So a lot of options, or they can start with the black on white and then select any of these colors for their background. Sometimes kids just think it's fun to pick different colors. And then the system does sentence and word level highlight. Again, they have the option of any of these colors to set it up how they like. So to begin reading, they can either hit the play button, which will start at the top of the page, or double click anywhere they wish.
Ria had been secretly worried her child to be a cyclops or a hundred-handed one. Maybe Kronos had been stressing about that, too. But nope. The child was perfect.
Sometimes over Zoom, the synchronization is a little off, but as soon as that word is audible, it's highlighted. So having that sentence level highlighting and word level highlighting can be really helpful for students to help them track. And it really kind of takes, they're not, by hearing it and seeing it, they're not just constantly trying to decode and spending all their energy on that. They can really can help with the comprehension. And again, for someone that just needs a larger font, maybe they would not use the audio, or maybe some people just want to listen, turn on the audio and listen without reading. Some people prefer one way or the other. Maybe it depends on the day. So that is our Bookshare Reader for Web, the mobile app, which is free, and there's an iOS and Android version. Looks very similar. It has all those same customization features. The mobile devices, particularly iOS devices, have, I think, like 50 different voices to choose from of all ages and accents. So that is also another great way for people to read. So that's the Bookshare Reader for Web. Students do have the option of downloading a book file. They can download it as an audio file. That's just an MP3. They could put it on their phone or other audio player. Maybe they're on a car trip and they just want to listen to their book. They can do that. For students who read in Braille on a digital Braille device, some of them require the BRF format. You would just download it. It downloads the file to wherever downloads go on their computer, and then they would transfer it to the device. Some of them use Bluetooth, some use a USB cable. Other Braille devices use Daisy Text. Some even use Word. So again, there's all these different file formats to use with other assistive technology devices they might be using, or the audio. Every book can be downloaded just as a Word document. Some versions of Word have that built-in immersive reader, which would give you the voicing of that. That's a great option if someone's going to be somewhere where they don't have internet access. They could download the book as the Word document and then just open it on their computer without any internet access. Maybe a teacher just wants one chapter of a book. Download the book, copy and paste out that one chapter. So a lot of flexibility for both students and teachers for how they read. And I mentioned that we have over 1 million titles. There's a couple different ways to find the book. There's that search bar at the top of the page. I'll just put in Harry Potter. It will bring up all the Harry Potter books. I think, over 600. It's every Harry Potter book, books written about Harry Potter, the screenplay. You can see there's a question mark because this particular book has not been assigned to me because I'm logged in as a student. These other ones have. So sometimes there's a concern about kids maybe reading books that they shouldn't, but they can only read those books that their teachers assign to them when they're on that school account. when they're given that individual membership, they would be able to read anything, with the exception, nothing that is labeled adult content. So they are blocked from accessing anything a publisher has given that adult content rating to. There's also the advanced search page where you can look for a word in a title, a specific publisher. If you know you want books that contain images, you can select that. Maybe you're just looking for, a second grade level book about animals, can further refine that. We also do have books in a variety of languages. So if you're working with a student who is reading in another language, there are books in other languages. I think there's 65,000 titles in Spanish. Again, the student still does need to qualify based on the learning and reading, visual impairment, or physical condition. But, there might be students who Spanish is their native language and they have trouble reading in their own language. So that is definitely just the fact that they're learning English does not qualify them for Bookshare unless they have something else going on. And as many people are aware, next school year, there's going to be the universal screening for dyslexia and other learning and reading disabilities, and there'll be screeners in English and Spanish. So I think going to see a lot more kids as being identified as having a barrier to reading traditional print. The screen, that's all being worked out of what screening instruments are being used. But I just saw an update that we're moving closer to that. So might have students who it's identified that they have a reading barrier that requiring accessible education materials. So even if they do speak a different language, chances are, you'll find it on Bookshare. Obviously, it's not the same selection as we have for English, but we have also worked on getting more textbooks in Spanish as well, since that is next to English, the most common language spoken. So that is the advanced search page. And then our browse page contains special collections put together by the Bookshare collections team. We have the New York Times bestsellers. This gets updated when the New York Times updates their lists. We have a section for educators, books by the accelerated reading score, Lexile levels, some of the leveled reading collections that are used, Fontes and Pinnell, the I Can Read level readers, those seems to be popular, the HMH leveled readers. So these are just some collections put together to easily find books. Here's some books in Spanish for different ages. We have the different award winners. So the Explore page is kind of just where you can come to find books, for different genres and different collections. If you're not sure books you want to assign to your student.
So Laura,
Uh-huh.
I know we have just a few minutes left, but we have some questions in the chat. So I'll go ahead and read this first one. It says, I tried getting eligible students on an account a few years ago, and the dilemma was that it prevented a universal access to the tool. On occasion, the gen ed teacher would offer access to audiobooks to all students, and we would have some students using Bookshare and some students using another tool, and it didn't work out for everyone. So it's also only available for certain students, and so it's really like kind of siloing some systems. We understand that there are legal opportunities, but struggling that it's a tool to support UDL when it's not available to all students. Any suggestions maybe to help further kind of eliminate that barrier?
Yeah, that's something that's come up in other districts. We've heard, and even within the UDL framework, it is recognized that there's supports that are given to everyone. So, like you mentioned, there are audiobooks that are available for other students, but there, still is that recognized need that there are some students who will require additional supports and services, additional interventions, and some need assistive technology that wouldn't be, practical for every student to be given. So I think that's just, I know it's great that everyone is thinking in this, like, make everything universal and everyone get the same. But for the students who do really require that have something going on that it's been identified and documented, whether that has been officially in an IEP or 504, or not that that's required for Bookshare, but it is recognized, and chances are these students are receiving other supports that other students are not giving, more intensive interventions. So I think just to kind of keep that in mind, that for these students, having access to what everyone gets is not always enough. And yeah, some students might prefer to listen to a book, but they're still able to gain the comprehension from not having that digital book. So just to kind of keep in mind that for these students, they really don't have the other option, just simply does not work for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might just be, I know it's
Yeah, thank you for addressing that. We do have a couple more. If a student wanted to skip to say page 34 in a book, is that possible?
Yeah, there's like a little at the bottom, there's like it looks kind of like a map, and it shows you where you are, like you're at page 3 of 500. They can type in 100 and then it will jump there. And then they also can go back to the table contents and navigate that way. There's the option for putting in the page number, and it will remember where they left off. So if they're on their Chromebook and they, even if they shut down their computer, when they go back to that book, it will open to where they left off.
Perfect. You just addressed the next question in the chat, or in the Q&A. We have two more. So one is there any way to integrate text annotation with the tool?
If you use Read and Write, you can use the annotation feature with that, with the Bookshare book, but there's nothing in the Bookshare reader itself. So you would need a separate annotation tool on the system that the student could access. But that is something we have heard over the years, and on our engineering roadmap of features to add, annotation is one. I can't say when, but we're on year 2 of our 5-year funding cycle from the U.S. Department of Education, and that is one of the things that we have said we are going to do in these 5 years.
Great. And then last question in the Q&A, are all reading are computer-generated voices? I believe that's a question. None have real human voices available, or are they all computer-generated?
The majority are the voices that are built into the device. We have about 3,000 titles that were gifted to us by a publisher that are human narrated. And so within those 3,000 or so, maybe it's up to 4,000 now, it's books for all ages. And there's fiction and nonfiction with professional narrators. You're not going to find, the Common Core textbook with that. It's more fiction and nonfiction, but not education based. But literature. There's like Tale of Two Cities with a British narrator. And some of the Harry Potter books have the human narrated. So we are getting more of those, but it's not something that we can control which title has the human narration. But there are, that's what's great if you have the Read and Write toolbar. Read and Write has their own voices built into it that you can use instead of the system devices. And those are a little higher quality than what you find in a Chromebook or on a PC or Mac.
Thank you. That addresses all the questions in the Q&A.
Okay, great. And real fast, I know we're a little bit over time, but find out if your school or district has a Bookshare account. It's often the assistive technology or special ed department that maybe has created one. If not, you can easily sign up just on www.bookshare.org. You would sign up as a school, which would be for school or for your district. Once you create the account, you add your qualified students, assign books, and get them reading. We have a lot of online support resources. The ABCs of Bookshare for Educators is a great kind of one link that has everything from signing up, adding your students, assigning the books, the different ways to read, as well as links to Bookshare Reader and some of our partner reading tools. We also have a link. We have the California Department of Ed recommended literature list. We had about 80% of the books that were on the most recent recommended literature list, and we put together a special collections around that. So if that's something you want to look to for your students, you can find them there. We also have, if you're looking for PD hours, we've created an online training manual module with the Iris Center at the Vanderbilt University that goes into everything Bookshare, as well as just more about accessible education materials. What are they? Who are they for? So we do offer, takes about 2 hours, a self-paced online training module. So thank you all. I know Open Access has some great social media resources. We will be doing a second webinar on December 4th, same time. Hopefully that will incorporate a educator and student who are using Bookshare that can speak to their experience. And here's our email addresses if you would like to reach out. If you have any questions, I can help you get connected to your school or district account or determine if one exists.
And then also, we had a little technical difficulty with the chat. So we will email out the home base, and that has links to the slides and all of the resources that Laura showed throughout our training today. So we will get that out to you soon, so you have access to those resources. But we want to extend our thanks to Laura for sharing this valuable resource. And please, once you have that home base, all of our emails are on there. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And hopefully we'll see you back here in December to hear that student impact and teacher voice using Bookshare. So thank you everyone so much.
Thank you.